All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation family? We're back. Another episode of the Witching Hour. And I got a new face with me today. It's not Title Crown. It's not Hamwich. It's our guy, Gyiraszin. Absolutely crushes the MLB streets. Gyiraszin, I'm going to bring you in right away. I know you've been crushing FanDuel. How you doing? Happy Wednesday. Did you play the early slate at all? How we doing today, man?
It's a Wednesday, it sucks because, being a dad of teenage daughters, last day of school today. So, we got to have a couple beers. We got to hide. That's why we got a garage with a 55-inch TV. We got a man cave with 3 big 65s. So we got to hide, my friend. If they come down here, I just bust out my baseball cards and start telling them about them. And then they run on out of here, Nate. But, it's been a nice day here. Tiger game going on. I was watching a little bit. I watched for like the first inning. My boy Torque hit a home run. So I was pretty happy about that. Didn't get in there today. I was at the day job trying to sell robots and all that fun stuff. But yeah, ready for a good old safety meeting, as Mike Carr said. We can hang out here, talk some baseball. Some pretty good games today, Nate. I'll tell you, we were talking a little bit before, man. At least pitching there's a lot of good pitching out here today. I mean, we think it's kind of going to be all the ownership. We think it's going to be bunched up on a couple guys, 2 or 3 guys. So, we'll see if we can get away from that a little bit, see what we like. But kind of excited to see what you think here a little bit today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, safety meeting. We love safety meetings over there. Gyiraszin's the president of the safety meeting club over there. Last day of school, that's got to be fun, but good thing we have sports in our life, Gyiraszin, and
absolutely.
The 12-game baseball game. 12-game slate on tap here. Your Tigers beat up Strider, 85% on Strider on DraftKings. The Tigers beat them up today on the 3-game slate, and that's what I always talk about, right? Baseball, you can never be too contrarian because we just seen it. Spencer Strider just got absolutely shelled by Detroit. Scored negative fantasy points on DraftKings, I think, or like 1 fantasy point. And that's just the nature of the game.
It was like last night with Max. Man, I mean, Max done kicked me in the fucking balls before I even got my 2 stacks to start at 8 o'clock. I already got my balls kicked. I was like already out of it. I was in that $500 FanDuel queue last night. Fucking Max, and of course, I saw Muncie. I had all Cincinnati and I had all Dodgers in my stacks. And I was looking, I thought about, a couple different one-offs, was bouncing back and forth thinking, all right, what pitcher am I just going to land on? Ended up landing on Max. And I should have just went with Kirby or somebody else, obviously hindsight. But, that's a good thing, though, to mention, Nades. I've been playing a long time, man. I've been playing DFS a long time. And, hey, if you think you're going to win every day, man, you might as well just turn this off right now and go on, do something else. Because, I mean, there would be a time you can go 10 days, 2 weeks without winning. But if you stick to your process and if you win and you hit and you stick to your process, I feel if I hit, I'm shipping that thing. I've already won the $100 four times this year. I mean, when I know I'm going to have a good night, I set up my team to win. So I know throughout the year I'm going to have a shipper. I mean, so you just got to keep with the program and don't veer off. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stick to your process. Read what everybody else did the day before. The poker hands are all out for you to see from the night before. You can see what people did. Follow some favorite guys you like. Watch how I build my teams. Watch how Nades builds his team. Hoop, you can check it out. Hamwich, all of us. Just watch how we do it and just pick your teams. I mean, last night there was 14 games like tonight. You had to nail the 2 teams. I mean, we had a good process. I like what I did. It just didn't work out for me last night. So, hey, on to today. That's the best thing about it, Nate.
Yeah, that's the best thing about baseball, right? There's 162 plus games with playoffs and all the day baseball slates and everything. There's always more baseball to be played, and bankroll management obviously key over here to always give you a chance to play again, because obviously it is high variance. And I found myself having a very good night placing pretty high in tournaments with 0.05 from Mr. Cabrera there at the pitcher spot on DraftKings. Very, very hurtful there. I went Burns and Cabrera with some Angels. And my mini stack absolutely printed there with San Francisco and Mr. Jack Sawinski double dong. But obviously, that's enough about last night. Enough about the early slate. If you guys are new, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you have not already. We're at 1.36 subscribers. Let's see if we can get to 1.4 before the end of the show. We'll give you our top-ranked hitter, our top-ranked pitcher from our proprietary tools over here at SHIPITNation.com, and a little more promo here. I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's the last chance. $59 a month, $5.99 for the year. Get you access to everything that you do see here on the screen. Incredible tools, incredible projections, the expert content. You get us in the Discord and get the Founding Family membership benefits at the bottom, which are exclusive only to those that have gotten in to Founding Family on the first 30 days of our launch. Because tomorrow, once Hoop and Tam will kick off the round 2 showdown show tomorrow night, the price is going back up to full price, and you will never see this price again. So now's the best time to get in. We have everything. We have been absolutely crushing over here. Members have been crushing. The Discord has been blowing up. Projections, the tools have been going crazy. We're continuing to add more content like MMA, like the tier rankings this week for the U.S. Open. Hoop and Tambo are going to give you guys their number one hit, 1 or 2 golfers in each range that they like, including all the slate plan, player pools, everything else like that. Absolutely incredible value there. So $59 a month does get you access to that. We'll go ahead and put it back here. So yeah, get in now. We definitely appreciate it. But Gyiraszin, that's enough of the promotion here. Let's get what the people wanted. They came for the breakdown. So let's go ahead and jump into pitchers like we always do. 9K and above using DraftKings pricing. They got Yuri Perez, Glasnow, Kelly, Castillo, Valdez, Kershaw, and Garrett Cole. Specifically on DraftKings, I'm seeing 3 guys getting pretty condensed ownership here in Kershaw, Castillo, and then Glasnow being the chalkiest option. But I'm still seeing right around 20 to 25% ownership on Framber there. I know you and I kind of agree there on that a little bit. And then I see Merrill Kelly and Garrett Cole kind of getting squeezed in this range. Touch on those 2 guys in particular. Touch on your favorite of these 3 chalk guys in Castillo, Glasnow, and Kershaw, and then anything else that you'd like to add there on those guys.
Yeah, at this point, Cole, I just can't pay up for a guy like Cole right now. He just doesn't seem to be with it. I mean, ever since they started checking the sticky stuff, this whole pitch clock, that guy just seems to be a mental case. I mean, is he capable of putting up big games? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm just not a fan of Cole, especially with the options we have today. We did talk a little bit about Framber, but I mean, Washington doesn't strike out. They're lowest strikeout team in the majors. I mean, are we going to see probably 6 innings out of Framber? Probably 7? Sure. I mean, are we going to see a lot of Ks? It just, to me, if you're in a GPP, I mean, you need the upside, right? So I don't really think the upside's there with Framber today. If you're in a small tournament, sure, I can't fault you for playing Framber. He's probably the safest. He's probably got the best win equity. Also, you'd say Glasnow is good win equity, but Oakland's actually been winning lately. But either way, Kelly, I'm not really interested in. He's a guy maybe if you're MMing you could look at, but with the 3 you're mentioning with Kershaw, Castillo, and Glasnow, I'm going to stick with Kershaw for me. Kershaw just seems to me at this point to be the more focused. He seems to be pitching really well. He's on his 2016 year pace where he was just mowing some guys down. His velocity's up. I like what Kershaw's doing. They have stretched him out a little bit as we were talking. He was kind of around the mid 80s, high 80s, low 90 range. They kind of bumped him up a little bit. He hasn't got over that 100 range, but he's been in the upper 90s now in the last few starts. But he's very efficient. Like, he just doesn't get that many 3-2 counts. Like, you just don't see it. He just is attacking hitters. I think he knows that he's on a pitch count. I like him. I just the freaking White Sox can't hit themselves out of a paper bag. I mean, usually before, like the last few years, the White Sox were a team I'd always look and see if there was a lefty and the White Sox were playing against a lefty. I was all about it. But I mean, at this point, they just can't seem to put it together. So for me, Kershaw would be a guy I'd look at. I really like Castillo. I mean, Castillo, I think, has the longest leash as far as pitch counts go of everybody. You're looking at a Miami team, another team that really doesn't strike out much either. But I think Castillo has the longer leash today. But Glasnow, I'll tell you what, I really like his matchup. I do. I'm not discounting it, but there's certain guys over the years that just burn you. Glasnow is one of them. He's either going to make you really proud, or he's going to piss you off like Max did and make you want to have a Modelo. Yeah, kiss my ass, Max. We'll have fucker.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, I can't do it, man, because if Glasnow does that to me again today, I'm gonna, I'm just not fun when you got to turn it off. I was watching stinking hockey last night, and I never watch hockey, so I watch my DFS. I watch all the baseball games. So I mean, for me to be watching hockey last night, I literally saw the third goal to the seventh goal. So blah, whatever. But yeah, that's who I like there, Nades. I mean, how do you feel? Does any of these guys stand out to you? Because I think all the ownership's going to be on Kershaw, as you mentioned, even on FanDuel, Glasnow, and Castillo. I think that's where everybody's going to go here tonight. You might see some people go Verlander. I'm not going Verlander. They can go Verlander. I'm passing on Verlander. He's another Max, just an old dusty guy that, we're thinking is, the guy from the past. And I'm not getting bit there again today. So maybe call me a little hesitant, but I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, in this range, DraftKings a little bit different than FanDuel. Glasnow is going to be a clear-cut chalk, probably pushing 40%, 45% plus in high-stakes stuff. Regular stuff, probably right around 35 to 40% because he is the cheapest of this range. He is facing Oakland. I get Oakland's on a 7-game winning streak, but they still are the worst team in the baseball, I believe, record-wise. And they do still strike out at home against right-handed pitching at 27% clip. Glasnow's got a 31.3% K rate on the slate, but he does get hit hard. He does have a pretty high expected ERA there too. So he doesn't rank very good on our pitcher rankings over here, which is pretty interesting me overall. So I might be off Glasnow a little bit here, especially with him being projected to be the highest owned pitcher. It's kind of like a Max Scherzer situation last night, right? Highest owned pitcher. I can poke holes in him, but obviously he does have the K upside there. So I do think he is in play, but just realize it's going to come with ownership. Castillo is actually my favorite in this range here. I'm just going to continue picking on this Miami team. I've picked on them quite a bit as of late. Obviously, the last 2 games, Seattle started hitting bombs, and I played the other side. I played the Miami pitcher in both those in Cabrera and Luzardo. That didn't work out too good, but I did play Bryce Miller. Bryce Miller had a very good game. I think Castillo has a Bryce Miller type performance here tonight, even probably a little higher ceiling type game. So Castillo's number 1 for me. He's going to come with ownership, but I really don't care. So I like Castillo number 1. And then it's really hard for me to ignore Kershaw, how Kershaw's pitching right now. Obviously, a very, very good matchup here as well with the White Sox, who do strike out above 25% on the road this year against left-handed pitching. Expected ISO numbers under 200 as well. So overall, I mean, in this range for me, it's going to be far and away Castillo number 1 for me, and then Kershaw right there close behind him. I'm out on Framber. I just don't like attacking the Washington. I know that they're not a flashy team, but they have about an 18% strikeout rate on the year, and I'm not going to do that on a 12-game slate. I need to chase strikeouts, and Framber's 10-3. So I would much rather just go $500 more to Kershaw or save a little bit down and go down to Castillo there, who all these guys at the top. The nice thing about having a pitching slate like this is they are going to all take ownership from each other. So that's a nice thing. I'm kind of just planting my flag on Castillo and Kershaw for me personally in that top range. Cole, I'm out on. Merrill Kelly, I'm out on. I just don't see the need to go to those guys, especially Garrett Cole. 11K against the Mets. He's kind of a diva with the way he acts out there on the mound. You never know what Cole you're going to get. So out on him. Let's jump into the next range here, Gyiraszin, and we're going to take it. Let's go all the way from 7K, which is Reed Detmers, up to Yuri Perez or Jose Barrios. Sorry, you got Andrew Heaney in there, Waka, Verlander, Savali, Drew Smiley, and obviously Reed Detmers down at the bottom. I'm seeing Verlander right around, 20 to 25% on DraftKings. That's probably going to go up a little bit with the lineup the Yankees have rolled out. He's 8K flat on DraftKings. Very nice price point there. He has shown some ceiling performances, but he's also showing some negative performances in there, kind of like what we saw from Max last night. And it's the exact same team that he's facing here that just got to Max last night. And I would argue Max is looked a little bit better than Verlander has this year already. So touch on Verlander in particular, and then any of these other guys, specifically like Drew Smyly and some of those other ones.
And the only thing I'd like to touch Verlander has is his wife. But either way, she's smoking. She'd walk around that Detroit Tiger Stadium, Comerica Park, and we'd all be praying we'd get a whiff of that one. But either way, I know we're not supposed to talk that way. Come on, be nice. So, but hey, Verlander for me is just the same as Max. As you said, you're paying 8,800. He's popping on so many optimizers as the cheap guy with upside. Sure, but that's not the Verlander I'm used to seeing. But, I'm just not a fan. And two, Nades, I think there's something to be said when these two New York teams play, man. That's a playoff type atmosphere too. So, Max last night, when I saw him that first inning, he looked like he was dialed in. He was like angry, and I thought, sweet. But I'm thinking, shit, man. Then he let it get to him a little bit. I just think, the tensions are high a little bit with those teams. You saw a couple guys, Max, Beans, Stanton. I think that game had a potential to kind of get a little ugly there. When I started watching it, I thought, man, these two teams just don't seem to like each other. So I think that's why the Yankees came out last night a little focused, and I'm a little afraid here for Verlander the same way. I mean, doing some research, I saw somebody mention who I highly respect in the game as far as writing content, Mr. Cheese. He mentioned Drew Smyly's strikeout rate is higher than Verlander's. I mean, and his walk rate is lower. So it's like, man, I mean, that's just scary to me. And I'll say, Nate, from a strategy point of view, when I'm looking at the bunch of pitchers that are on the slate, first thing I ask myself is, can somebody burn me where that guy's going to win the slate? How many in the past years we would see guys, putting up a 70 burger, 65 burger, and they were able to make some lineup work. And if you didn't have that guy, you were basically shut out. This year hasn't been that way as much. Spencer Strider is really one of the only guys that have been scaring me, that can beat me all by himself. If he was the best pitcher on the slate, you feel like you still got to play him because he's Spencer Strider and he was putting up, the strikeouts. That hasn't seemed to be the case. But with this group of guys here tonight, Nades, as you mentioned, I don't think you want to go too low. I think the chances of some of these low-tier guys, like a Reed Detmers, who is probably one of the only guys I'd probably take a chance on down here because of his high strikeout rate that he's had, but he's got that blow-up rate. I mean, you're looking at a guy that you might have a 10, 15, 20% chance of him having the game you want. So to me, there's going to be a couple guys up here at the top. They're going to put up some significant points between these three highly owned guys. And I don't feel as if you need to be worried about the ownership tonight. Just pick the right one. I think that's what you need to focus on tonight. So for me, I'm going to probably stick with Kershaw or Castillo, try to figure it out. The pricing's a little different on FanDuel. Valdez is actually the highest price at 11.3, Kershaw 11.1, Castillo is 10.8, Glasnow is 10.1. So, I just feel as if you're somebody up there is a pretty good chance is going to put up that 40 spot, 50 spot. You're going to have to keep up with that. So don't be afraid to pay up for the pitching saying, I'm going to stay away from these three guys. I think you need to choose the right one of the three guys and just roll with it.
Yeah, I agree. I do think I'm trying to go double aces tonight on DraftKings. I do have some interest, especially on DraftKings where salary is a little bit different. You do obviously have to play two pitchers versus FanDuel, just different roster constructions, different salary structure, everything like that. So you do need some of these cheap guys sometimes. I do have some interest in some of these cheaper guys. Drew Smyly in particular stands out pretty good here to me. Has had pretty good strikeout rate this year. The only issue is, these Pirates have been pretty pesky, pretty low strikeout rate. They got some pretty patient hitters there, do have some power in that lineup. But, he's just 7,200. I think he could get it done. It's pretty good pitching weather in Wrigley Field as well. Nice little boost there for him. And I think he's got some win equity baked in there too, because Pirates are rolling out this Beto dude making his debut here. I think the Cubs are semi-interesting a little bit as kind of mini stacks once we talk on bats, just targeting. I target pitchers making their debut more times with bats than I do that I'm going to play them. So Smyly there, 7,200. He ranks pretty good on our metrics over here. The only issue is I just don't know if he does have the strikeout rate with this Pirates lineup. They're striking out under 20% against lefties on the road this year, and they have been good. Obviously, Jack Sawinski was a hero for me last night. He probably does not crack the lineup tonight against a lefty, but I think he makes some sense there. Savali, I just can't do Savali. I mean, he's gonna throw right around 90 pitches. I mean, there is some strikeouts there with San Diego overall, but I just don't think you need to pick on San Diego on a 12-game slate, especially with a guy like Aaron Savali. Reed Detmers, I'm not going to pick on Texas in Texas. I get the reasoning for it. I just look up and down this Texas lineup, and I mean, they have an expected ISO of 250 as a team, strikeout rate of just 16%. So I'm clearly out on Reed Detmers for sure. I actually have minimal interest in this entire range. I mean, Justin Verlander is interesting to me on DraftKings in particular. I'm seeing sub 20% ownership. That's probably going to climb more towards lock here as people are building their teams. But at 8K flat, I mean, if he goes out there and gets 20 DraftKings points like he has posted, 20 plus DraftKings points like he has posted a couple times this year, I mean, he certainly has to be in consideration here. I mean, this Yankees team, I get it. They do have Stanton in there. They have Rizzo. They have Donaldson. But they have a 32% strikeout rate on the road this season against right-handed pitching. Verlander has not had the greatest K upside this year like he has in years past. Obviously, Drew Smyly is beating him in K rate on the season. But, I mean, I just target teams that with a lot of strikeouts, and the Yankees do have a lot of strikeouts. So at 8K, I think he makes a very viable SP2 option. I would watch ownership there, and hey, maybe ownership drops a little bit because of the Scherzer thing last night, right? Everyone's snake bitten from Scherzer last night. Do they really want to come back with Verlander against the same Yankees team? That might keep his ownership in check a little bit, but I do think he is the best option in this 7 to upper 8K range on DraftKings in particular. Gyiraszin, we're going to hit on the rest of the pitchers on the slate here. I got some guys down here that are kind of interesting personally. I mean, Garrett Whitlock stands out to me. Ben Lively has been pretty solid. He is facing Kansas City, though. Josiah Gray, but hit on those three because those are the only three sub 6K guys that I'm seeing. I mean, Daniel Lynch down there too. Those guys, those four mainly are the only guys I would even slightly look at, but any interest for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing any of them on FanDuel, obviously, as I was saying. But if I had to play SP2 over on DK, Ranger Suarez, maybe somebody I'd look at. I mean, he's, fairly cheap. I mean, yeah, we know that they're not going to strike out all that much. I don't mind that at all. But for his salary and look at his game log on FanDuel. He's had 30, 37, and 43 his last 3 games, 6.2, 7, and 6 innings. If I'm guaranteed that kind of innings out of a guy at that kind of salary, I would take it. Whitlock, he's interesting. Lively, he's got some decent upside. I don't mind that at all. But when I kind of try to put things in percentages, just like you're sitting at a poker table, man. Like if I'm gonna stay in and I'm chasing this, what's my percentage of hitting this shit? Like what's my percentage of Whitlock or one of these guys having a game that are going to keep me within? I like to say generally within like a home run or so of the top guy on the slate. I mean, I don't like my chances with any of these guys down here with as many top guys we have today. If we only had one top starter, I'd probably find myself down here in this mid-range. Probably I'd probably be willing more so to take a chance. But man, with somebody up there is going to throw a 45 to 50 point spot up there tonight. And you don't want to be away from that. But like I said, down here, if I had to pick an SP2, Lively, not a bad option. But I think Ranger Suarez probably be my guy because I just feel he'd be the safest because I think I'm going to get 6 innings out of him, and I may get a win. I got a really good chance. The way them Phillies been hitting, I think I got a good chance to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, I like I'm kind of a little bit different than you, actually. I like the other side of that Ben Lively game in Daniel Lynch. I mean, he's going to throw 5-6 innings here. And this Reds lineup that they rolled out, I get it, right? They got Ella De La Cruz, the best thing since sliced bread for Cincinnati, because, I mean, they haven't had much in Cincinnati in terms of baseball since the Joey Votto days, right? Joey Votto's prime days. But, I mean, 30% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching on the road this year. Daniel Lynch has posted a 23% K rate on the year. Barrel rate under 4%. I mean, he's averaged right around 5 to 6 innings pitched. Expected ERA under 5. I think at 6,500 on DraftKings, look, it's not FanDuel where you have one pitcher. So I do definitely agree with you on FanDuel in particular. I would try and stay at the top range. But on DraftKings, I mean, we do have expensive bats on the slate. The Dodgers, which I love today, are very expensive, and you do sometimes need to come down at your SP2 position. I think Daniel Lynch can post a pretty good score. He ranks out very well on our tools over here. And then the other guy I have interest in is Garrett Whitlock. I will continue to pick on the Colorado Rockies. I don't care who's pitching, but I do actually have some faith in Garrett Whitlock here. He's not just some Joe Schmo out there on the mound. I think he does have some K upside. I mean, these Rockies strike out nearly 30% against right-handed pitching on the road. Red Sox are the clear-cut chalk of the slate in terms of bats. He should have run production. I think he should be in line for the win as well. And at 6,700, I think he makes a lot of sense too. So those are my two guys down at the bottom. Gyiraszin, go ahead and give the people your top three pitchers on the slate, and then we will jump into game by game.
Yeah, I'm still trying to decide between Kershaw and Castillo, who's my SP1. I think at this point it's probably going to be Castillo is going to be my one just because of a little bit of salary savings. But Kershaw, they're both right there for me. And then after that, I would then probably use Glasnow. But I'm not going to use Glasnow. I'm playing two teams tonight on FanDuel. I haven't decided if I'm going to go both with the same guy. I might just split them up, one Kershaw, one Castillo, and actually play pretty much the same lineup and see what happens. But, yeah, for me, I'm going to stick up there with Kershaw or Castillo today.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to go Castillo number one for me as well, Kershaw number two, and then I'm going to give the people Garrett Whitlock number three, and then number four, I'm going to go with another cheap guy in Daniel Lynch for the people playing on DraftKings. Obviously, I'm a mainly DraftKings focused guy, play 2 to 3 teams a night, and Whitlock did make my core over on SHIPITNation.com. Little foreshadow for the people. Let's go ahead and game by game. Before we do, a little shout out to Rod H in the chat. Happy birthday, man. Glad you're tuning in here. Hopefully we can get you some birthday shippers here for the people. But Gyiraszin, game by game, let's talk on Blue Jays, Orioles. Orioles obviously went absolutely bananas last night. Now they face Berrios, and Blue Jays also have a pretty healthy implied run total heading into face Kyle Bradish. Very good hitting conditions, about 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing out here in this game. I think both sides of this game makes some sense in terms of stacking, especially the right-handed power for Blue Jays. Bradish is like a 16% strikeout rate against right-handed hitters on the year. So, I mean, obviously guys like Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette, George Springer. I mean, these Toronto have a lot of right-handed power here. Touch on any interest you have in this game for bats.
Yeah, coming right out the gate, one of my favorite games, actually. So I've been debating, I might even game stack this, to be honest with you. I really like this game. Bradish can't keep the ball on the ground. He's a fly ball pitcher for the most part. I mean, the guys, like you mentioned, reverse kind of splits. He actually strikes out more lefties than he does righties. So it's a little awkward. But, man, I really do like all these righties at Toronto. And, I mean, and Baltimore's a great park. I really like Camden Yards for, run production. Saw it last night, bunch of runs. I think you could see it both ways. I'm much more of a fan of the Blue Jays than I am the Orioles. I just think Berrios is a pretty decent pitcher. But the Orioles been smashing the ball, great hitting conditions, as you mentioned. But I think you're going to see a few Blue Jays probably on my team here tonight. Yeah, Blue Jays for me. I just got to kind of figure out if I'm going to go mini full or what I'm going to do here as we're getting here to 5 o'clock. I got a couple hours still, but for me, like I said, I really do like Guerrero, Bichette, Chapman. All these guys are going to be primary targets for me. So definitely interested in the Blue Jays here tonight.
Yeah, I'm in a lockstep. I do think a game stack is viable here. I do prefer the Blue Jays side of this game. I do think some of these Orioles is going to pick up more ownership. It's hard to ignore Gunnar Henderson. I mean, 3,100 on FanDuel, 3,700 on DraftKings. The dude is just absolutely crushing the ball last night, but he has been for the last week or so. You look at his game logs on DraftKings, and almost every game is double digits. Couple 30 bombs in there. Like he's smashing bat and lead off here tonight again. Ryan O'Hearn continues to smash the ball, continues to be 2,800 on DraftKings. First base, outfield eligible. I love those two in particular. Obviously, Adley Rutschman, you can always play. Austin Hayes there. Overall, I think the Orioles are more of a mini stack for me personally. I just like more picking out some of those power bats and guys that are hitting well right now. And O'Hearn, Gunnar Henderson, especially at the salaries they're at. But these Blue Jays, I love these Blue Jays for a 5-man stack here. They're probably going to make my second team on DraftKings here. And I mean, it's like a 16.7% strikeout rate to right-handed hitters, I think Kyle Bradish has, which is very weird, right? Reverse split pitcher guy. And these Blue Jays rolled out 7 righties. I mean, you got Matt Chapman in there who has been raking the ball all year. He is batting down in the 6 hole. Might keep his ownership down a little bit because he is 4,400. Alejandro Kirk does have power. He hasn't been the same Fat Man Kirk that he was last year, but he still does have power. He's 2,600 at the catcher position. Vlad Guerrero, one of the top bats on the slate, 338 expected ISO against right-handed pitching. And Bradish, fly ball guy in Camden Yards, good hitting weather, wind blowing out. I mean, sign me up for these Blue Jays. I think 1 through 9, you can play these guys. I would prefer the right-handed power, but I don't mind if you're stacking them up, including guys like Dalton Varsho, Biggio, because they are pretty cheap, and they do have Varshaw's hitting 3rd tonight. So Bo Bichette, for the BVP truthers out there too, does have a little BVP against Mr. Bradish. 2 home runs, 4 for 12, something like that. So not a crazy sample, but I always like to throw that little BVP tidbit in there for the chat. Next game on the slate, I talked about the pitchers in this one on one side and Garrett Whitlock, but Gyiraszin Boston, absolute clear-cut chalk of the hitting conditions, 6.5 implied run total, pretty good hitting conditions like it always is in Fenway here. And Boston is chalk because they're facing Austin Gomber, who is absolutely horrendous. 14% strikeout rate, expected ERA approaching 8, barrel rate in the double digits. Rockies are pretty clear cross off for me here against Whitlock. I actually do like him, but touch on this Red Sox chalk because it doesn't seem to work out too much when these Red Sox are chalk personally.
Yeah, Red Sox, I mean, they were the highest implied team total yesterday and didn't really do much. But, I mean, Gomber's terrible. I mean, 10.2 innings. He gave up, 15 earned runs in his last 10 innings, something like that. He's got like 5 homers, something. It's just awful. These guys terrible. And then you got a terrible Rocky bullpen right behind it. I mean, so you got lefties. You know, you obviously got to look at Justin Turner. He's a guy that, should be pretty highly owned here tonight. But really, Nade's on a 12-game slate like this. I think if you're going to say high owned, I mean, I'm going to guess Boston might be in the 20% range maybe. And really in baseball, I don't really stress out too much. If I don't think it's going to be 35%, we're a third of the field, I'm not stressing about it. So for me, 20%, whatever. I'm not going to be afraid. If you like Boston, play Boston. Don't be afraid of it. I don't be afraid of the chalk. Just play it if you like it. You can get different elsewhere. It's just in baseball, you don't see the train of runs like you do in basketball with all the same damn team. So don't be afraid of all that. So, I really though, Nate's the thing that stands out for me with Boston is they just seem to. I'm not playing them unless generally they're at home. So here we got them at home. I like it. I think it's a spot you could definitely go to. The over-under, as we talked about, something I'd like to look at too, is the Vegas odds as the day's gone on. And I see a game that went from 9.5 and 9 in some spots, and now it's up to 10. So, that's something I like to pay attention to too. When you got all these sports bettors out there betting on, something, everybody's hitting on it, might be a reason why something going on, you might want to be interested. So that's bumped up. So for me, that's checks the box. They're at home, checks the box. Devers, obviously their best player, a couple home runs yesterday. I'm not worried about the matchup, lefty-lefty matchup. Gomber's terrible. So, just stack them up if you like them. I don't mind it at all. I haven't really crunched it to where, obviously, if I'm going high up in pitcher, I can't have every bat. So I'm going to have to find me some value somewhere here tonight. But Boston is definitely a team I like, and I definitely like Toronto. But, that over-under is 12. Gomber being terrible. It's just, as you mentioned, Boston's been, they've let everybody down. They're kind of turning into the Minnesota Twins from last year. So just be warned. It hasn't worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting to note, there is no Yoshida or Rafael Devers. Obviously, two of their best bats in the lineup too, which does make this lineup overall weaker in my eyes. I mean, you got Pablo Reyes in there. You got Christian Arroyo. I get that he did hit a bomb last night. But, I mean, my favorite here would be obviously Justin Turner, clear cutting away. That little top 1-2 stack, it's going to be owned, but I really don't care too much. I mean, 27% 2,600 for Rob Refsnyder leading off here against the lefty. He has a very low strikeout rate as well. Good ISO numbers. Him and Justin Turner combined under 6K, right around 6K there for 2 hitters in 1-2 in great hitting conditions. There is a little bit of weather in this game, so do keep an eye on that. Probably a delay or a late start here. If it is a late start, I think Whitlock is safe. If they do start, that's going to be a little troublesome for Whitlock because obviously if it does get delayed in the middle of the game, that's not very good for pitchers there. So we'll keep an eye on that in the Discord over here at ShipItNation.com. But overall, I mean, these Red Sox, I prefer them more as a mini stack here. I just like other offenses more on this slate personally. And when people are just flocking to one offense because of their implied run total and they're facing Gomber and the Rockies, I'll look elsewhere with other teams that I think can match them here, especially with no Devers or Yoshida in the lineup. But certainly mini stacks viable for me. Justin Turner, clear cut, my favorite bat on the Red Sox. Next game here, we got Verlander and Mr. Garrett Cole, 2 quote unquote aces, if you will, an old ace in Verlander, and then Garrett Cole has been up and down, but still a very, very high caliber pitcher. Pretty easy spot for me not to look at bats. I know you talked about possibly looking at some of these Yankees bats. I personally can't do it. I think this is a pretty easy cross-off game for me personally.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Nate, I'm not doing it though today, but if I was playing, a handful of teams, I would probably have a couple of Yankee stacks just because Verlander, he's given up 11 earned runs, 6, 4, 1 in his last 3 starts. I mean, he's not Justin Verlander. We changed his name and look at his stats and didn't know who he was. We would probably be thinking about playing the Yankees today. So, it's just name recognition at this point. So I mean, I'm not afraid of Verlander. I definitely am not playing Verlander, but as I mentioned, these games in New York, when these 2 teams play, it's like playoff atmosphere. So, I can't fault you if you want to look at the Yankees. I'd much rather have the Yankees with Aaron Judge, obviously, but I don't mind them at all tonight. They got to be pretty confident and pretty happy. I would assume that they probably feared Max a little bit more than Verlander, I would assume. So, I don't mind the Yankees. I don't mind them at all, really. I think that's my low-owned sneaky stack of the day. If somebody was to ask me who would be my low sneaky stack, I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you a little bit in the top 3 hitters in Bauer, Stanton, and Donaldson, just because they have power. They have good numbers against right-handed pitching on the road this year as well. Obviously, Rizzo can always hit the ball out too. So I would stick to those 4 in particular. Definitely more mini stacks. Jake Bauers is a nice value, 2,600 leading off. Hits right-handed pitching very well. Has shown power all year long. But you know what you get with these Yankees? You get a home run or bust kind of thing. Because they do strike out a lot, but they can put the ball over the fence here too as well. A little bit of they'll be unowned for the most part on both sides of this. But Matt's full fade for me here against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole has been known to have some home run issues, but with no Pete Alonso in that lineup, you're kind of just throwing darts trying to pick off a home run here. Maybe Starlin Marte, something like that, or Lindor, but. Don't love it. Pretty easy cross-off spot for me. Next game on the slate, Gyiraszin, Pirates, 4.2 implied run total heading into Wrigley Field to face the Cubs. Cubs have an implied run total approaching 5. Obviously, Osvaldo Bido is going to make his debut here for the Pirates. These Cubs do have some power in this lineup. Pretty low strikeout rate up and down 1 through 9. They're going to put the ball in play. This lineup, I mean – Mike Tauchman apparently is a leadoff hitter in 2023, so that's a little interesting here for the Cubs. But touch on this one, Pirates pretty easy stay away spot for me against Smiley, but these Cubs do intrigue me a little bit here.
Yeah, this is a game that I truly crossed off, to be honest with you. I mean, Smiley's a guy that I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't with this guy. He just is, I don't know, I can never get him right. But, the Cubs have been hitting a little bit. This over-under through the day has dropped, actually. There's just too many good spots here today for me to even really consider any of these guys. I mean, maybe if you wanted a one-off, you could maybe look at something like that if you want. Maybe Brian Hayes or somebody in that Pittsburgh lineup against that lefty if you wanted. But nah, I just crossed this game off, to be honest.
Yeah, they're very good. It's a very good game to cross off if you were. But these Cubs, I wouldn't sleep on them. Swanson and Morel are probably my two favorite bats. You are going to pay a little bit of money for them, so I don't love it. But I mean, Sia Suzuki down at 3,700. He's always got power. And I mean, they have some cheap guys in this lineup. Matt Mervis has some power. Jan Gomes. But overall, I mean, not the greatest game. Wind kind of blowing across in Wrigley right around 60 degrees, so not the greatest hitting conditions as well. It's just more of a bet on Beto making his debut and picking on guys that are coming up making their major league debut. That's more all I was looking at there. Next game, I do have interest in this game on both sides in particular here. It's the Angels heading into Texas to face the Rangers. Pretty healthy implied run totals on both sides. Reed Detmers, Andrew Heaney. I don't like either of these pitchers too much. Touch on this one. Do you have interest in the Angels? I know we were on the Angels last night. Angels got the job done for the most part for me. Ohtani just continues to be locked in at the plate. He's 4,100 FanDuel. I mean, I could argue he could be 5,500 on FanDuel with how he's been playing. So touch on that, and then any of these Rangers, because these Rangers do have a lot of power in this lineup against lefties.
I mean, both these teams are teams. I mean, the Angels been one of the hottest hitting teams in all of baseball here in the last 10 days or so. I mean, that's why I've been riding them the last few days. Ohtani, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball, other than Gunnar Henderson, actually. So always going to be a little bit of interest there. Heaney's not a guy. It just seems like really gets blown up too much. So I'd kind of lay caution there. But I mean, this Texas squad's a little interesting too. Reed Detmers definitely can get blown up. He misses some bats. You kind of mentioned before we started, you got Duran hitting in the 3-hole, who definitely can hit lefties. I like Garcia. They're rolling out a ton of righties. They can literally go all righty except Corey Seager. So I mean, I like that. So there's a lot of things to like here, really. But if it was a smaller, shorter slate, I think I would really like the Rangers. That's something that I would probably be more enamored with than I am, because there's just so many other options. And with what I'm looking at paying up at pitcher, I don't think it's it's worth for me to take the risk that I think I'm taking against Reed Detmers with some Rangers. I actually thought about the Rangers a little bit earlier today, but I just kind of talked myself out of it just because Detmers misses a lot of bats still, right? A lot of balls aren't in play. So whether he can get blown up or not, it's just, I just think there's safer, better spots that I think have more upside than this. But Texas, I mean, they're top of the majors in runs scored. So you always got to consider at Texas, and they're a team really outside the DFS world. Nobody really would even probably be surprised if you told them that. So Texas definitely is a team that always I'm looking at. But today, against Reed Detmers on a 12-game slate, I just think there's other options.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than you. I do think both sides of this game. I mean, the Angels bullpen has been pretty good as well behind Detmers, but I mean, I still think these Rangers can get to him. Corey Seager actually hits lefties very well, and the rest of the 9 hitters or eight other hitters are all right-handed bats. I mean, this lineup that they put out has expected WOBA of 401 against left-handed pitching at home this year, and expected ISO numbers of 249. K rate of just 16%. So I get that Detmers has been missing bats, but I do think these Rangers are going to put the ball in play here, and they always have the power to do so. Ezekiel Duran there in the 3-hole, 3,400, makes a lot of sense. Josh Young absolutely smashes lefties. Mitch Garver smashes lefties. So up and down, I mean, I think these guys make some sense overall on the Rangers side. The Angels side, I mean, Ohtani, Trout, Rendon would be my preference. Chad Wallach has actually been playing very well. He's 2,400, 2,100 on FanDuel. Nice value on both sites there. Does have some power, 579 expected ISO against lefties on the road as well. Guaranteed 9th inning at bat. So I like both sides of this game. I think both sides are 5-stack viable, mini stacks as well. And definitely don't sleep on these Rangers. I think people are going to play Reed Detmers a little bit, especially at 7K. I won't be surprised to see these Rangers post a number on these Angels here. And this game kind of pop off a little bit, 13, 14 runs, something like that on both sides, like a 9-6 game, something like that. I think is definitely in play for sure. Next game on the slate, we talked about Framber on one side already. with these Nationals. They don't strike out, but they're not a very scary roster to go against in terms of rostering for DFS. Personally, I don't have any interest. On the Astros side, they have been good. I mean, Mauricio Dubon hit a bomb last night, Kyle Tucker. But overall, I don't have a ton of interest on either side of this game. I mean, Josiah Gray is a decent enough pitcher. He has been all right this year. Framber, obviously, I don't like picking on him too much. It's just more I like the other guys at the top better with more upside, I think, on this slate for a 12-gamer. So overall, I think the pitchers are good enough in this game to stay away. Do you agree?
Yeah, this is a game for bats. I did scratch off. I'm not going to be playing Houston. I just don't think Houston has the home run upside at this point. There's a few guys I could say could hit me 2 homers in that lineup. I'm not counting Jose Abreu either, but I'm passing on Houston. I crossed this one off.
Yeah, we're in lockstep there. Next game on the slate, we're heading into Coors Field 2.0, Kauffman Field, Kauffman Stadium. Let me look at the weather here quick. Slight wind blowing in, but not much. It's going to be about 80 degrees throughout the duration of the game. Pretty solid weather in Kansas City here to hit. Daniel Lynch, Ben Lively on the mound, 2 decent punt pitchers, I think, if you need the salary. Personally, I'm out on the Reds side in particular. I mean, they just strike out a ton. I mean, even De La Cruz on the road this year, it's only 6 plate appearances, but he's got a 66% strikeout rate on the road. Overall, not a ton of interest on the Reds. They will steal bases, so I guess there's a little bit of stolen base upside there. The Royals side, I do have a little bit of interest in. I mean, Salvador Perez continues to hit well. Bobby Witt continues to play good. He always has stolen bases upside as well. Michael Massey's been on a tear. Eduardo Olivares. These guys are all cheap, especially on DraftKings. 3K, 3,200, 2,500, 2,500, 2,200. Up and down this lineup, they're cheap. So I do think they make a pretty viable secondary stack with some upside there against Lively and his overall. Do you have interest in either side here, Gyiraszin?
For a game with a high total, you think I would, but I'll give a little credit to Mr. Perez behind the plate. I think he kind of neutralizes a little bit of that running game that Cincinnati has. Cincinnati, I was on them yesterday. I bought into that crap yesterday, but I don't know. I'm not enamored with it. I just don't think Cincinnati. I'd rather play Cincinnati in Cincinnati. I think that's what I'm going to resort to when they're on the road. I think I'm just going to leave them alone. So I just think I'm just going to have to leave this one alone. I do respect both pitchers a little bit too, where I think both pitchers could definitely have a decent game. Actually, I was going to probably check out here. I was thinking about earlier. I haven't done so, but a thought went through my mind to look at a bet in the first 5 innings and maybe bet the under in the first 5 innings of this game so that I know I have 2 of these pitchers. You got a game of 10. I know that Kansas City bullpen and Cincinnati bullpens are both terrible. So I think you could have first 4 or 5 innings off to a good start for both pitchers, and then you could see some late runs. But yeah, Nades, I think I'm just going to pass. I'm not going to, I may look for some one-offs here or there, as you mentioned, but I'm just going to pass.
Yeah, I'm kind of in lockstep. I'm out on the Reds on this one. On the Royals side, I do think make 2- and 3-man mini stacks. I think they lack the upside for a 5-man stack on a 12-game slate. So I would keep it to mini stacks. But, I mean, they've been known to go off a little bit. And typically when they go off, it's at home. So that's typically where I play the Royals is at home in Kauffman Stadium, kind of the opposite of the Reds. Obviously, the Reds have one of the best hitting parks in all of baseball. So I don't play them too much on the road. I don't play them too much as is, but definitely not going to play them here. I do have interest in Daniel Lynch quite a bit, especially at that salary. I think he can post a pretty good SP2 score on DraftKings. Next game, we're getting into the night games here. We got the Marlins heading into Seattle to face Castillo. Yuri Perez, who's been all right on the mound as well. I think this is a pretty easy cross-off game, but I mean, these Mariners have been hitting bombs. Does it continue tonight, or are you kind of just looking at the pitchers in this one and that's it?
Yeah, I think I just look at the pitchers. You got to over under a 7 in this game. No need to overthink it here and just cross it off, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep. I'm in lockstep with you there. Next game, we got the Phillies, 4 implied run total. The D-backs sitting right around 4.5. Ranger Suarez on the mound, Merrill Kelly on the other side. I know you talked on Suarez a little bit. We didn't love Merrill Kelly. I do think he has upside with this Phillies lineup, especially if it stays the same. They have been hitting the ball lately, but there is strikeouts there. I just prefer the other guys in his range, I think, a little bit more. But Kelly will be sub 10%, sub 5% probably even. So you could make a case possibly to play him. But for bats in this one, I think it's a pretty easy cross-off spot as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to go against Merrill Kelly. I mean, I respect him enough to leave him alone. That's for sure. Like I said, 12-game slate, other spots that we could look at. Definitely not going up against Merrill, especially as good as the Phillies have been. I mean, 20-some runs and 23 runs in their last couple games. I mean, maybe they're getting it together here. I mean, that lineup's too good to be as bad as they've been. But this is another game that's dropped. The over-under has dropped throughout the day, Nades. It went from 9, now it's down to 8.5. So that's something I look at. Like, I think that's important. I mean, Vegas is pretty smart. So I think that's something that definitely stands out to me. So other spots that I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I agree. This next game, I have quite a bit more interest in these later two games. Besides this next one seems to follow suit with the last two games we did hit on. I don't see too much in this game either. Cleveland and the Padres, Savali and Waka, two decent pitchers on the mound overall, right around in that mid-tier pricing. I think you could possibly make a case if you needed to, but personally, I'd play 2 to 3 teams. You can't play everyone on the slate, but for bats, I think another pretty easy cross-off spot for me on bats in this one.
I won't ever play the Indians/Guardians ever. That team does not hit home runs, and I am not playing them. So we don't have to worry about me ever rostering any kind of Indian stack or ever. Maybe a Jose Ramirez one-off or something like that maybe could get me. But, yeah, I'm passing on that. San Diego, they're just a team that, man, on paper, they look like we should be playing almost every night. They just stink. They can't get it together. So, and their salaries are too damn high. Like, I'm not interested in paying, $8,700 for a Soto Tatis combo when I can go elsewhere and probably find me 2 guys who are going to do a little better. So, yeah, I'm not interested in any of these bats.
Yeah, I'm off both sides. Obviously, Jose Ramirez has triple dong, upside, double dong, whatever you want to call it. But, I mean, 4,700 third base. I like other third basemen more. I'm not going to roster any of the Cleveland guys. And these Padres are priced like the Dodgers here, and I just think the Dodgers are far and away a way better team to stack up tonight here. So pretty easy cross-off spot. Don't have interest in either one of the teams. The next game here, Glasnow versus Medina. I do think these Rays, what do the Rays do, Gyiraszin? We said we want home runs. What do the Rays do? The Rays hit home runs. Obviously, it's not the greatest hitting park in Oakland here, but Medina, 11% barrel rate, expected ERA over 6, strikeout rate right around 20%. And these Rays, I mean, Josh Lowe, Luke Raley, Jose Siri, Rosarena, Wander Franco, Yandy Diaz. I mean, they're starting to come around a little bit. Obviously, they've slumped a little bit after the record-breaking start of the season. Do you have interest in the Rays here tonight? I do think they make pretty viable stack option here as a late night hammer. Oakland, pretty easy cross-off spot personally, but hit on this one.
Yeah, I mean, anytime anybody playing the Oakland is somebody I'm definitely interested in, especially with that crappy bullpen, even though they have been a little bit better. But that's just the variance in baseball. It had to level out itself a little bit. I mean, they couldn't be that bad. I mean, they were on pace to be the worst of all time by like a huge margin. So they're reeling it back in a little bit. They're still the same guys. They're terrible. Medina, as you mentioned, has got a high barrel rate. I definitely think you're, I like it. But what only thing that scares me about the Rays is they pinch hit so much. Like they'll pinch hit a lot. So, and almost nobody's safe either. A lot of times they'll pinch hit anybody. Like it's kind of frustrating sometimes when you're sitting there at the end hoping for 3 or 6 more points, and then your guy gets yanked out for some other donkey to come in. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely in play for me today. I think that's a stack that is going to be overlooked, Nades. I don't think you're going to see as many people. They're going to be, Oakland's been winning. Nobody's going to think twice about the top hitting team in baseball against one of the worst pitching staffs. I mean, that should be pretty much headline news at this point, right? I mean, I think you're getting it at a really good discount for what you're paying for. So I think it's a great stack. It's one that definitely should be considered tonight if you're playing one or two teams. And they're really not that expensive, Nades. You can throw in a few guys that can level out the Wander Francos and the Rosaranias. So, it's not a bad stack. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the Vegas implied run totals we have over here, they're the second highest on the slate behind Red Sox. So I do think their ownership's going to be down. I mean, I'm seeing the Reds total stack ownership projected higher owned than the Rays here tonight. And I already talked on that game. Didn't have much interest at all on the Reds. I do think these Rays make a lot of sense. Obviously, they hold their lineup until super late. They're usually the last team every night to release their lineup. So that is a little frustrating here. Jose Siri, Luke Raley, Josh Lowe, a little three-man outfield combo there, I think makes a lot of sense. People don't like using all their outfield spots. I get you can play Luke Raley at the first base position on DraftKings, but if you put all three of those in the outfield there, that's one way to get unique as well. Use all your outfield spots on the same team, because people never like to do that because they obviously got guys like Mookie Betts up there, Bryce Harper, Kyle Tucker. I mean, JD Martinez, the list goes on. Schwarber, all those other big names in the outfield. You do that. That's one way to be different there. But the Rays definitely, Yandy Diaz has been hitting well too. Probably going to lead off. Overall, I do like these guys quite a bit. Wander Franco just steals bases too, can hit bombs up and down. I think these guys make a lot of sense. Oakland, I'm a pretty easy cross-off spot for Oakland.
Real quick thing I'll touch on. I think I would like the Rays more if their lineup does not come out until after lock. Then I like the Rays even more than I like them now, because nobody's going to roster they don't get rostered as much when the lineups come out. That's why I always like the Dodgers so much, because when the lineup doesn't come out and it's lock time, people are not engaged all night to figure it out. People want to set their lineup and they go. So if that lineup isn't out before lock tonight, I like the Rays a ton more than I do now.
Yeah, and there's probably a good chance that if it does get released, it's within about 10 to 15 minutes of lock time, which overall, will still keep their ownership down. People, especially in baseball, we have a lot of lineups already confirmed. A lot of people build their teams. I'll be honest, I put my core up on the site already before this show even. That's a glorious thing about baseball, right? You know who the pitchers are. As soon as lineups are released, you pretty much know a lot of these players anyways, the daily players for all these teams outside of one or two bats that kind of change around a little bit depending on splits and things like that. That's a nice thing about MLB DFS, right? You can kind of set your lineup early, go drink some Modelo's, hang out with Gyiraszin in his man cave, go hang out with your family, spend some time, watch your kids' baseball games, do what you need to do, and wake up tomorrow or look back at the end of the night after your activities are done and hopefully see some green stacks in your DraftKings account. And I think we're going to do that here tonight. White Sox heading into Dodger Stadium to face the Dodgers. We got Mr. Clevenger on the side facing these Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. I think this is an elite spot for the Dodgers here tonight. I love the Dodgers, and the nice thing about them, I think their ownership stays kind of in check with this lineup and the price tags on some of these hitters. So Dodgers are clear-cut my number one stack of the night here tonight. Are you in lockstep with me, Gyiraszin? Do you like this game?
I do like the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are in a great spot. The thing with the Dodgers is, and Clevenger sucks against lefties. He can't get a lefty out to save his life. So Freddie Freeman is one of my top bats on the slates. But one thing that does scare me a little bit, Nades, is them White Sox got a handful of lefties down there in that bullpen. So you might see guys, like Peralta get pinch hit for. You might see some guys get brought out. Taylor might be coming in a little bit earlier. So that's kind of what worries me a little bit, but is the pinch hit. So do not put Hayward and Peralta both in there, because if they're both in there to start, I can guarantee you one of the two, if not both, are not going to finish that game. I can assure you. So just be careful with that. Don't be enamored. But, hey, they could get the damage done in their first 2 or 3 at-bats. Don't get me wrong. But obviously to win a tournament, you're going to want five at-bats if you can get them. But we'll see what happens. But JD Martinez obviously has been hot lately. Mookie Betts has been hot. This Dodger team's been hitting, and the White Sox bullpen is terrible. They give up at the top of the rankings as far as bullpen rankings go, is giving up home runs. I mean, they're just bad. So I do like the Dodgers, but just be warned about the pinch hit risk there late, especially Peralta, Hayward, any of these weaker lefties you could see, definitely getting pinch hit for. So just be careful. But Peralta has been hitting pretty well lately.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I do think Chris Taylor, I mean, the projected lineup has all three of them starting, Hayward, Peralta, and Chris Taylor. That would make me feel a little bit better because if Chris Taylor doesn't start, there's a very, very high chance that he does come in. As soon as a lefty does come out of that bullpen for either Hayward or Peralta, one of the two. If they all start, I think that makes some more sense. Will Smith will probably pinch hit if he doesn't start because obviously Austin Barnes catches for Kershaw. That's just how it is. So if Will Smith does not DH, there's almost 100% chance if this game is still within reach and the Dodgers don't have an 8-run, 9-run lead, something like that, Will Smith will probably come in for one of those guys to pinch hit. But overall, I mean, these Dodgers are clear-cut my top stack. I saw my guy Hoops on them as well. That's another little hanker in the pocket, right? When Hoops on the late night Dodger stack at home, you pay a little attention to that Gyiraszin because he shipped quite a few 6-figure wins with these old Dodgers late night hammer waking up to more cheese in his pocket. Mookie Betts, obviously incredible play. Freddie Freeman, my top bat as well on the slate. JD Martinez just continues to crush the ball. I mean, at home in Dodger Stadium against right-handed pitching, he's got Aaron Judge type expected ISO of 421, which is absolutely absurd. And that's in 67 plate appearances. So that's not just a small sample. Absolutely mashes the ball. David Peralta has been hitting well. Jason Hayward has been rejuvenated this year somehow. Whatever they're putting in the water out there in LA, I think you and I, Gyiraszin, I think need to show up and go drink some of that water that they got flowing over there when we got Jason Hayward hitting multiple bombs a season out here. But overall, 1 through 9, I think these guys make some sense. We're going to go ahead and give you our pitcher call and our home run call. But if you have not done so already, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. We're approaching 1,400, so it's been great. About a week and a half on this new channel, give or take. You guys have responded well, so please do hit that subscribe button if you cannot, or if you have not already. You also will be able to then chat in the video, in the live show chat here as well. It is subscribers only chat, so a little added benefit there. You can ask us questions. We do try and interact with the chat as much as possible. And then a little more publicity or a little more promo here. I will throw it up on the screen one more time for the people. We're going to do, it's the last chance, $59 a month, $5.99 for the year. This deal will be going up tomorrow night, midnight, right after the round 2 showdown show for the U.S. Open that Hoop and Tambo will be doing on the Mayo Media Network. The pricing will be going up to full price. This price will never come back. And Tambo always like to say it. We like to reward the people that have been in early with us. We're not the cell phone company. We're not the cable company giving the best deals to new members. We like to reward the people that have trusted us in our tools, our projections, our analysis, everything that we offer over here at SHIPITNation.com with the best pricing, including $10,000+ in giveaways in the first year here for you guys, merchandise at cost, things like that. So we appreciate you guys hanging out. Gyiraszin, let's go into your favorite pitcher, your favorite home run call of the evening before we close this thing out.
My favorite pitcher is going to be Luis Castillo just because he's a little bit cheaper than Kershaw. I think those two are pretty much in lockstep with each other. I'm probably going to have play two teams, play one of each of them on both teams. So we'll call that a split. My home run call tonight is Mr. Bo Bichette. I think Bo Bichette's going to have a big night against Kyle Bradish tonight. I really like the park. I like the weather. I like he's a fly ball pitcher. He doesn't miss bats. And I think Bichette gets him a dong here tonight.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. I'll give the people a little 1-2 punch at the pitcher. Both of them are value on DraftKings. I'm going to go Daniel Lynch against Cincinnati and Garrett Whitlock then against Colorado. I think if you're spending down those two guys, I think have upside in terms of strikeouts here. Daniel Lynch ranks very good on our pitcher rankings over here, which have absolutely printed at SHIPITNation.com. So either one of those two guys, if you need the extra $200, I like Daniel Lynch at 6,500, and I like Garrett Whitlock as well at 6,700. Do keep an eye on the weather there in Boston, but if that game does get delayed to start, I think he is safe. So I like both of those guys, and I do think Whitlock's in line for the win as well. And then for my home run call, let me pull it up here. I'm going to go back to back. I'm going to go with a nice little cheap outfielder here for the Orioles. I'm going to go Ryan O'Hearn. I'm going to continue to ride this guy's hot streak, hitting in the 4-hole here. Expected ISO numbers over 250, 273 here. I do think he can take Barrios deep in Camden Yards here. I think it's a very, very viable game stack. Good hitting weather as well. I think Ryan O'Hearn hits another one here tonight at 2,800. Gyiraszin, that's going to do it. It's been an incredible show. We appreciate you giving all the knowledge to the people. If you have not, hit the like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. But that's going to do it for us. For Gyiraszin, I'm Nades. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.